Welcome to the Retro Game Club Podcast, Season 4, Episode 13, also known as Episode 124. I am Rob, and joining me always is someone who keeps getting into shipwrecks and keeps losing all of his swords, spells, and other equipment. Hugh.
That's right. I'm totally drenched right now as we speak.
Yes. I just found you on a shore.
You know, I didn't realize that was an East reference because some information about East 10 came out this week. I didn't realize how recently that was actually the setup for the first East game, because usually when you start it, if you played it on PC Engine, it starts with the lead character, Adol, getting off a boat. Like, he's not shipwrecked. He's like, I'm a swordsman who has arrived in town. And I thought that was like the canon story, even though like I played the Master System version before. In the Master System version, there's no intro. It's just, I'm a guy in a town. But in the manual, which I didn't read, it explains that he was shipwrecked.
Oh.
Yeah, which is why then in the like East Eternal remake, they actually like explicitly added the shipwreck to the intro.
Yeah. He's been shipwrecked at least once before, right?
Well, 6 and 8 both start with shipwreck.
Yes, that's at least 3 shipwrecks the guy's had. So the oceans are just filled with awesome swords and shields and stuff.
Yeah, that's the Easter egg of East 8. So you know where it fits in the series is that in the very intro of the game, you know, your ship gets attacked by like this giant tentacled monster, right? When Adol gets his sword, if you like, you know, it says like Adol got sword, right? And it has the name of the sword. The name of the sword is the final weapon in East 5.
Oh, okay.
Because that's how you know chronologically where East 8 takes place.
Yeah. I really liked how the latest Horizon Forbidden West dealt with that. It's a sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn, where literally in the first scene when, you know, someone from the old game catches up with you, they're like, the first thing you say to them is, something crazy happened and I lost all my equipment. Can you help me? And that's it. They leave it at that. I'm like, that's perfect. That's all you need to know. Like, something big happened to me, lost all my equipment. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to do it. Because that's a problem like in the Zelda games too, right? I mean, not most of the Zelda games take place in different timelines, but some of them are like direct sequels to each other. So like Majora's Mask had to have Link getting robbed at the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
So I guess we can skip around. I was going to talk about like, I guess there was a very, very small announcement about East 10 this week. And chronologically, it looks like it's either set before or maybe immediately after East 1 and 2. Because Adol is like a teenager in it compared to kind of old man Adol that we had in East 9. I mean, old, relatively speaking. Again, there is a character in East 9 who is portrayed as a elderly man. And when you go to the character like info screen, you see that he's 46. and then you feel really old.
Yeah, exactly.
And it looks like, I mean, from what they've said, it's like another dual lead game like East 8, maybe.
I think I read that the specific announcement, so these were kind of leaks, I think, but the specific announcement is supposed to be on July 7th, if I remember right. Okay. I'm excited. I mean, I assume it's going to prove me wrong that it's not going to be an online East game, but I'm going to call myself correct if there's any online element at all.
Yeah, there probably won't be. I mean, again, like in the same week, the Android version of East 8 was announced, which is not really developed by Falcom, right? Like they don't do mobile and online games. They just license it to other companies to do.
Yeah. So
that's the only way I think you'd see it is if they licensed it to some other company. So man, I got a lot of new business. Why don't you go first? What have you been up to?
Okay, yeah. Well, I finally got my Steam Deck email, and it has shipped. So that is exciting since I start my summer holiday tomorrow for a week. And it should get here tomorrow. So hopefully that's what I'll be doing. What else? I thought UPS was sending me a notice that was tracking for my Steam Deck. but it was a tracking notice for something that will also be here tomorrow that's being shipped from Poland. So who knows what I kickstarted or pre-ordered many, many months or years ago, but here it comes. So I'll let our listeners vote on what they think it'll be. So have you ever used the eBay-like service called Mercari?
No.
It's much simpler, and kind of their claim to fame is obviously the simplicity, but if you star something, which is the same thing as like a watch list, I guess you heart something, I guess. It motivates the seller to send you a personal discount. eBay started doing this too. But
eBay does that, yeah.
But Mercari really started that, and I feel like the discounts are sharper on Mercari, and sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. I never have to say it out loud, but I think they also, like, over time keep marking it down. Anyway, I saw a PS3 FAT on there. Now, the FATs, a few of the serial numbers have the PS2 chip in there and have full hardware backwards compatibility, PS1 and PS2. And that's something I've had my eye out for. So I messaged the guy just saying, like, hey, can you read me the last segment of the serial number? And he reads me A01, which is the original one that has all the chips you want. So I immediately hit buy for $47 shipped, which is amazing. Like, these things should go for $300. It gets here today. Well, last night. I opened up the box today. Now, in the guy's defense, I had to use my phone to take a picture and zoom in to see the serial number, but it was H01. So this thing is completely useless to me. So now I have a giant PS3 I have no use for, but it did motivate me to start trying to get a custom firmware on my PS3 Slim to my only interest is kind of getting the PS2 and PS3 games that have never been ported to like PS4. So so I'll let everyone know how that goes. My PS3 has the latest firmware, so it's kind of a nuisance. And what else? Yeah, I bounced off Metal Gear Solid. I just decided I played it enough. It is pretty dated. I understand why people liked it and why people didn't like it. I'm kind of in the middle. I'm excited to play the later games, but I moved on to Returnals on PS5, which I'm really enjoying. It's a beautiful, beautiful roguelite that seems to have an interesting story and really good gameplay, so I've been enjoying that. But yeah, what else other than the East kind of stuff? Oh yeah, and I've been playing your game too. So
okay. Okay, good. I just put out like what I think is the final version.
Did you take out the beta text in it?
Yeah.
Cool.
So that way people will know it's not the beta one.
Nice.
Well, it has backgrounds now. It has like background scenery. That's what I spent most of the week working on.
Cool. I'll have to re-download
most of my free
that.
time during the week. Yeah.
Has anyone sent you any bugs?
No. I mean, so what happened is, I had a long weekend last weekend because we had the Juneteenth off at my office because we do a lot of I don't know if it's I don't think it might be an Illinois state holiday. I don't know. But regardless, the company I work for does a lot of federal business, so we get like every federal holiday off, even like Veterans Day, stuff most people don't get off.
Yeah.
So I just used part of it's super hot here. I don't know if like this is the end days or something, but it was, 95 degrees every day last weekend in June, which is really unusual for
here. Unheard of. Yeah.
So I didn't really do anything. So I worked on two projects. I took my speedrun tower demo and I plugged it into actual Genesis hardware. And then I said, oh, wow, look at all these things that don't look like how I thought they were supposed to look. Like there's a pretty big difference in colors on real Genesis versus emulators, which is a constant source of frustration. So I spent most of my time just fixing up things that looked bad, which is easy to do because I don't have to do it by hand. Like I wrote a system where all the images are PNGs and then some code converts it to Genesis tiles.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I did. And then added backgrounds because there's no background scenery. So like as you go up the the tower, the background, looks a little different. It's about it. So that's really all I added. And then a fourth ending, which took like 5 minutes to write. So yeah, I don't think I'm going to work on it anymore. I kind of got to this place where I'm like, man, I don't want to work on this anymore. So I decided to spend today, because it's again 90 degrees out, just powering through like the last few things that I wanted to change, which was again mostly making the background scenery look okay. Since I'm doing it all in PNG in the first place, it's not really. It sounds like a lot of work, but this is like 2 hours of work for me.
Today's version's already on your site?
I just, like, right before we recorded, I said I never want to look at this game again, and I just pushed it out.
Cool.
I have like a CDN in front of it, so it might take an hour to refresh, but it should be out there now. By the time this episode's out, it will certainly be have made it out there. And then I don't know. I mean, I'll tell like Indie Retro News or some other site about it and see if anyone wants to try it. But yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do next. So I had thought about, I think I talked last episode about maybe trying to learn like Jaguar or Sega CD programming, but I don't know right now.
Yeah. Do the math.
The other project I did last weekend while it was hot and annoying was I have this Raspberry Pi that I keep like trying different projects on and being unhappy with. But I decided to take it and put on RetroPie again, but this time just make it a dedicated TurboGrafx CD player. Basically taking all the CDs I have, ripping them, which I've already done before, and just putting them on here and just having it boot right into like TurboGrafx 16 CD. Because then there's no controller configuration. Like I have the TurboGrafx controller, for the mini system.
Yeah.
So it's just a one-time, like I just have to configure that and it works great. But along the way, I learned that with RetroPie, you can't use multiple USB drives to store ROMs, which is a problem if you're trying to build something that only plays CD games. So I wrote up an article that maybe we'll put in the links on how to trick RetroPie into using all the USB drives on your Raspberry Pi.
Is it just symbolic links?
It's just symbolic links, yeah. Which most people don't understand, I suspect.
Yeah, because Windows shortcuts work way less conveniently than links do.
Right. I suspect most people have a lot of experience creating symbolic links. So that's mostly what this is. But it works great. Yeah, that actually works great. And what else? I started Quake 4 on PlayStation 4. I'll talk about some other time. And, well, everyone knows what Quake is. So then Friday, I decided I was in the mood to watch a bad movie. Have you ever just been in the mood where like you want to watch a really bad movie?
Oh yeah. That's probably every other movie I watch. I'm just like, I need something stupid. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this one I learned about a movie recently from 1994 called Arcade. That's the name of the movie. And it's about a video game, and the video game is called Arcade. It stars the kid from Christmas Story and Seth Green. And they're high school kids. Now, Seth Green looked like a high school kid. I think he and I are the same age, so he was probably 19 or 18 in 1994. The kid from Christmas Story is actually younger than I thought. I looked it up, and he was 22 when he made this movie.
Okay.
But he looked at least 35. And he was also supposed to be a high school student. I don't know how much I want to talk about the movie, but I would just say it makes Double Dragon look like The Godfather.
So what streaming service is this on?
This was on Tubi.
Okay, I don't have that one.
TUBI. It's a free service. It's one of those. It's like kind of like Pluto, where it's like Crackle actually. So you've probably used Crackle.
Yeah.
Ever heard of it?
Yeah.
It's the exact same idea. But everything on it's free. It's just it has commercials. But depending what you're watching, so something like Arcade does not have a lot of commercials. I think if you watch something more popular, then maybe there's more commercials. There's got to be some sort of bidding system for this. Like I don't know behind the scenes how they figure out what commercials to show. I mostly got ads for like Illinois primary races.
I feel like arcade would be on everything because those bad movies, like they'll just license it to whoever.
Yeah, that's the only one I found it on. I didn't look at Pluto though, and I guess I didn't look at Crackle either. I just saw the name of the movie and then went to like realgood.com or whatever that site is and saw Tubi first and just went straight to that. Yeah, I would highly recommend not watching it. So the basic premise is that a company develops a sentient arcade game, but it also has a home version that's identical to the arcade version. And it uses like a VR headset, and it like traps people inside the game like Tron, only with considerably worse graphics than Tron.
Huh. There is a, have you ever watched Sword Art Online?
No, I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's an anime with pretty much the same premise.
Right, but then the premise is sort of Tron. Sort of. But Tron was made more than 20 years earlier. No, sorry, more than 12 years earlier, but looks 1,000 times better.
Yeah. VR was all the rage in the mid-90s.
Well, yeah, it was a attempted VR.
Yeah.
It's I can't really describe how bad this movie was. I almost had to turn it off because I was falling asleep.
Nice.
Why don't we just power through some of this news and stuff we have here?
Yeah, we don't have many big items. Let me get us started. I put this first one up here. It's just a quick mention that if you have a MiSTerFPGA, the SNES core is being updated. I don't know if it's being updated or if it's a totally separate core, but you'll be able to do MSU-1 compatible ROMs. Well, what that really means is that it adds possible CD sound and sometimes full motion video to your games. So it's kind of like the SNES PlayStation, the Nintendo PlayStation compatibility. Yeah. Kind of cool. I don't have any of those ROMs or ISOs. I don't know what you would call them at that point, but I am interested. I know the Super Mario World is supposed to have a cool soundtrack. Have you ever messed with those at all?
No.
I've only... Yeah, someone has shown them to me before. I don't even know where to get those. Well, I haven't looked, but I'm sure it gets sorted out. Anyway, do you want to make your own Nintendo 64 cartridge?
Maybe.
Well, now you can with a Raspberry Pi Pico. There's a schematic on Hackaday where, you could do exactly that. It's looks pretty neat and much cheaper than, I guess, actually getting a real Nintendo 64 card, and you could use it as
like... What does it do for power, though? How does the power part of that work, right? Because the Raspberry Pi has to be powered on by something.
I mean, power goes through the carts, right?
Does it?
Yeah, it should.
I guess it must, yeah. But it's enough to power... Huh.
The Pico doesn't use, like, any power, but I guess you could use this as, like, an EverDrive type thing if you'd like.
Yeah, I guess it's probably... I mean, if you have the technical know-how, it would be cheaper than buying an N64 EverDrive. I
mean, those barely exist anymore. You can't find them anywhere. So this might be the only option right now. What else do we got here?
Doom ported to AUX. What is this? Apple Unix? What is that? Yep. Okay.
Yep. And that's about it. That's really that news.
Yeah, that's free BSD probably.
Yeah, that's based on System 5.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Can't believe that runs.
Yeah.
While I was testing my demo out on Unreal hardware, because I had the flash drive connected, I decided to try the Wolfenstein 3D port to Sega Genesis. Have you seen that?
I have not done it, no.
It is really good. Yeah, I would argue it's possibly better than the Super Nintendo version. And it's really, I'll just say it's really well done.
I believe it. I have the one for the Apple II GS, which is the same hardware pretty much as Super Nintendo, and it's doesn't have many frames per second.
The other Doom running on things is someone ported Doom to an IKEA smart light bulb. But the project got pulled down. Possibly, maybe IKEA went after them? It seems weird.
I mean, I'd put this in the kind of category because he did have to add a TFT display and 8 megs of RAM. And so I guess he used the processor and IO from the light bulb.
Yeah, which is probably, again, because the lowest end processor you can buy is powerful enough to run Doom. I was actually just looking at these because I thought I was going to buy it, but then I realized it's just kind of useless. Bluetooth light bulbs that play music.
Okay, like for the shower or something?
No, like for the closet. These were like closet like light bulbs.
Oh,
like
weird.
Overhead, like, yeah. Well, I guess you could put them in any lighting fixture. But yeah, like LED light bulbs that also you can output your favorite podcast to, I guess, or whatever. I just looked at it and I'm like, it was like $8 or something. I'm like, that sounds fun, but what would I ever do with this thing?
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe you could hook it up to Alexa and make it do some funny, stupid things. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. What else here? Someone ported Jak and Daxter to PC.
Yeah, I mean, just very quickly, this is the same thing where they decompile it and then they literally port it, function by function to C and have a human readable, Windows compatible game. They export all the assets and use those assets, and that's the starting point for it. So kind of cool. I doubt this will be available very long.
I doubt it will be available very long either. Prototype Quake for Game Boy Advance.
I mean, it looks good for Game Boy Advance, but it does not look good for Quake. If you know what I mean.
I imagine. Quake was already sort of a hard game to run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but still, pretty impressive.
Yeah, oh yeah. I agree, it does not look great. I have Doom for Game Boy Advance, and that's at least okay.
Yeah. And then more kind of ports here. Well, this is more of a mod, but Elder Scrolls 2 Daggerfall got a mod that gives it updated controls. So it gives it modern controls. I've never played any of the Elder Scrolls games, but
I have not either, even though I suspect I would like them.
Yeah, same here. So I'm just afraid at how big of a rabbit hole I'll go down. But
I wonder if are any of them on Switch? I think Skyrim might be on Switch now, right?
Is it? I don't know.
I thought one of them was on Switch now, but that would certainly be the easiest way to play it.
Yeah. But,
and that's it.
Yeah, that's our news. And our topic this episode is that as of June 2022, the Apple II is 45 years old. So we just wanted to talk about it quickly, kind of give our history and thoughts on the Apple II. And that's about it. So I guess I'll just quickly say that I'm sure if you're listening to this podcast, you know what the Apple II is. But yeah, like I said, it was released in 1977 in June. And it was 1 megahertz at the time, and widely used for business and education. Had a ton of games for it, and invented by Woz, pretty much. And there were many, many different versions. The Plus, the E, the C, the GS. Yeah, there's a few different versions I didn't even mention with ProDOS and DOS 3.3 and eventually GSOS and yeah, on and on and on. But who cares about that stuff? What games did you like on it?
The funny thing for me is I probably played fewer Apple II games than you think. My own history with the system was, this was the first computer that I ever owned as a kid, but we didn't really have like a an Apple II, we had a clone. So, yeah. Well, so here's kind of the background. Like, you got to go back to like, I was probably summer 1982. It could have been 81 or 83 that I'm thinking of. I don't know. I tried to count. I think I lived in 5 different states between 1980 and 1985. So, not all my memories are going to be completely perfect.
Yeah.
But, that around that time period, my parents sort of had a debate, right? Which was, my father thought I should be spending more time playing Little League. And my mom thought I should probably try out a computer camp. There were like computer camps in the area. I ended up doing both. And as of today, I still can't catch a baseball and work as a computer programmer. So
Yeah.
you can kind of see which parent was right there.
Yeah.
Computer Camp was basically a logo programming class on the Apple II. Do you ever do logo?
It was ahead of its time.
Yeah.
It
was super easy.
I've read it. I've never actually written anything in it.
Oh, okay. It takes no, I mean, basically it teaches like the basics of like functions and subroutines is what you learn from it.
Mm-hmm. And it's faster than BASIC, right?
Well, no, I mean, I don't know if you can really compare the two that way, because logo is just meant to do like drawings. It's purely a system to draw graphics.
Okay.
And it does draw faster than, like, if I was to draw a bunch of lines in BASIC, logo indeed does that faster. But that's really what it's for. It's a drawing program where you define what you're drawing through, basically through early subroutines. So that led to us getting a Franklin Ace computer. So that is an Apple II, I believe Apple II Plus clone. It's had to have been cheaper than the Apple. That's probably the reason why we got it instead of an actual Apple, right? And it was just from some sketchy local computer shop. All right, so you can imagine a town that has like an old-fashioned main street, and somewhere on that main street is a sketchy computer shop. Because they would also sell you like games, right? Which would be just, discs with a handwritten label and the name of the game on it.
Nice. Yeah.
Just so, clone Apple systems and full-on bootleg software. I really don't think I owned a legit copy of any Apple II software until like the 1990s.
Yeah. I think you're not alone there. I think that was a very common memory.
Yeah. So I feel bad about that, I suppose. But what I really got into on that Apple II was programming. I had an Intellivision already, and the Apple games I saw just didn't seem to be as good as the Intellivision games. Mostly because Intellivision was still better for like action games, and I wasn't really into like RPGs or adventure games yet. And that's what I mostly did on it, was a lot of getting those computer magazines that had sample programs and then writing them and modifying them, seeing what else I could do with it. So I probably spent far more time on the Apple II doing that. And then even as I got older, I would do like hardware hacks on it. I did like a RAM upgrade on that computer, which is the thing you could do. It's totally useless because you would then need software that could support the additional RAM.
Yeah.
So I would say I got my first like legit Apple software when I started working at the game store, and like the Apple software at that point was one shelf labeled clearance. And it was like all the gold box D&D games for, 99 cents, possibly less than 99 cents.
Yeah.
Like they just wanted to get rid of that stuff, but
no
one was buying it. So then I played a few of those, and then at some point I went off to college and all that stuff got thrown out.
Yeah.
What about you? You did a lot more gaming on it, it looks like.
Yeah, well, I was lucky enough to have one or two Apple IIs. I don't know if they're E's or whatever in my elementary school. I remember them being either on a cart, being wheeled from class to class, or just in the library. So I got to see some educational stuff on there. And then at my cousin's house on like, a birthday party, or there would be family Christmas over there or whatever, he had an Apple II Plus, I think. And that's where I saw King's Quest for the first time. And that changed my life. I really think it was a combination of that game and Super Mario Brothers that made me a gamer. And King's Quest made me a PC gamer. But, the graphics blew me away. His stepdad at that time got the first Macintosh. And both my cousin and I were just like, why? It felt like a step backwards.
Because it was black and white? Or
pretty much, yeah. Exactly, yeah. I had in 6th grade, my typing class was an Apple IIe. And I actually have some pretty funny memories from that class. But yeah, when I was in 3rd grade, my parents got us an Apple II GS from Egghead Computers, which
wow, okay.
I don't know if that turned into Newegg or what.
It did not. No, Newegg used, after Egghead Software out of business, the people who started Newegg picked that name as a tribute to Egghead.
Okay.
Yeah, not related at all.
But we got, we were very lucky to get that. I think my parents chose very wisely instead of a Mac, and even a IBM compatible back then.
Yeah.
And it was a WAS edition. I still have it. I have fond memory of the game it came with, kind of air quotes on that one, that taught you how to use the mouse. And, you would drag a car down a road and you would try not to hit the sides, kind of like an operation type game. And, it'd make a honky noise if you hit the side. I remember there being like, I think you had to swat flies or something. And that's how it taught you to double click maybe. Those memories are fuzzy, but we did have Jet and King's Quest 3. I think we had 2 and 3, Space Quest. The actual real games. Now, I always pronounced it Karateka, but I know I'm wrong. We had that, Shoplifter, Wings of Fury. Just a ton of amazing games on there. Now, we did also have Print Shop, which was not like Photoshop or anything like that. You almost just dragged assets and maybe colored them. But the way my mom used it, I'm pretty sure it was just a way for Apple to sell toner or ink ribbons.
Yeah, the thing is, back then the printers lasted like, I'll put it this way, like the Apple printers lasted about 1,000 times longer than a modern day printer.
Oh, totally, yeah.
You did use up a lot of ink making like a banner on Print Shop, like a happy birthday banner that spanned multiple connected pages.
Yes.
But like today, like the cheap printer I have, I would get the H printed and then it would tell me it's out of ink.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And ink costs more than petroleum.
Right. So I just go to Kinko's. I literally just drive to the FedEx Kinko's to print everything now.
Yeah, it's cheaper that way. I'm looking through my notes here. What else? I don't know if it was AppleWorks or what word processor my mom used for business, but it looked like Vim. And she had every shortcut memorized. She was so fast in it. And, for some reason today, she can't even install an app on her iPhone. So I don't know. I don't know the disconnect there, but she used to be way better at computers than she gave herself credit for. And then 2 other quick things. I think GSOS was way better than the actual Mac OS. It looked just like Mac OS, but it was color and had a few features that didn't end up in Mac OS, I want to say until like version 5. And I just think the 2GS was sabotaged by having a very slow 16-bit processor. I think it would have been much more successful had it had, like an 8 megahertz processor. And on my Apple IIgs, my Apple RGB monitor died. It's so sad. And I can't find one locally or anyone willing to sell one for a reasonable price. So if any of our listeners have one for sale, shoot us an email, please. But yeah, those were all my notes. What else anything else you had to say?
I was going to say, I have an RGB monitor right here that's not hooked up, but I don't think I need to sell it. I had to unhook it because it makes some high frequency sound that my kids they scream when they turn the monitor on. I don't even notice it.
Nice.
So it's like the clip of sound people over 25 can't hear on eBay, or not eBay. What is it? YouTube. That's it.
Yeah.
I just play that sometimes to annoy my kids and also sometimes coworkers, unfortunately. So I was gonna say, kind of a funny thing about one of the things I put in my notes here is how we will never in a million years see an Apple II Mini.
No.
The Apple computer today is basically unrecognizable from the Apple computer in the 1980s. There's no chance. The Apple of the 1980s, if it existed today, would definitely be releasing a highly hackable Apple II Mini.
They had the Raspberry Pi mentality back then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it was just totally, totally different. One of the other things I learned about Apple II is that, I learned how to program on it, but some people a lot younger than me also learned to program on it. So, quite a while ago, this had to be over 10 years ago, I had a coworker from India who was minimum 15 years younger than me, I would say. And we were talking one day, and he had mentioned that he learned to program on an Apple II. I'm like, how is it you learned to program on Apple II? And he's like, oh, well, in India, I didn't have any money. And on the weekends, my father would go to the electronics scrapyard. And his father apparently was a hobbyist, and he'd just get random computers from the electronics scrapyard. And that's where I learned that a lot of these electronics recycling events that they have, that stuff just gets dumped in India. And then people there scavenge it. Probably more interested in precious metals than scavenging it for, to bring home to your kids so they can learn to program in Apple II.
Yeah.
But I just thought that was, I mean, it's both sort of mortifying because you think you're donating stuff and it's being recycled somewhere, and it's not. It's just ending up in a landfill in a place you can't see.
Yeah.
But also sort of, a little bit inspirational. Oh, okay, you can get a really old computer and learn enough about how computers work and how programming works that then you can get a job as a programmer and be successful.
Yeah, that part's cool.
Yeah. And I didn't talk too much about Apple II emulation, but I did get into it when I was still using Windows, because there isn't a really good Apple II emulator on Linux, unfortunately. But on Windows, there was it WinApple or Apple Win, some variation of those words. And I got into that quite a bit in the late 90s. Mostly because I'd mentioned when I moved out to college and stuff, my Apple got thrown away. But the games didn't. So I had all these gold box D&D games where you have to have the manuals to play them unless you hack them. So I'm like, oh, well, I can just play emulated versions of these now. And that's probably the last time I played Apple was going through the gold box D&D games. I suppose you didn't get into those. You're more on the King's Quest side.
Yeah, I didn't even know those existed. Now I'm intrigued.
Yeah. I mean, they play a little slow, and some things about them haven't aged well, like the difficulty curve. But overall, I mean, I again, I was designed for a different era. It's for an era where, you weren't getting a new RPG every week. So if an RPG required you to do 20 or 30 hours of grinding just to survive each dungeon, right? That was acceptable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Apple II Mini. That's if I ever get another Raspberry Pi, which I swore off buying more Raspberry Pis. Dedicated Apple II is a really, really tempting project.
That would be cool. And there's got to be an Apple II Raspberry Pi case. There's got to be.
Oh yeah. And I'm sure I can find project pages of people who have done a setup of just, here's a Raspberry Pi with a small monitor, in maybe a Bluetooth keyboard or something, and every Apple II game ever made.
Yeah. I mean, those people would probably be at Kansas Fest, which is the Apple II festival that happens every summer since, back in the 80s, and it's 2022. It's still happening. And that's June 19th, so you could watch it live on YouTube.
Oh, it's June. Wait, June.
Or
19th?
sorry, July 19th. Okay. July 19th.
Otherwise, you missed it. And then Vintage Computer Festival. When is that again? September?
September, I want to say 9th, something like that. 9th, 11th, maybe.
Okay.
Around there.
Right after Labor Day, maybe, somewhere around there. Yeah, it looks like the weekend after Labor Day. So hopefully it's not like a million degrees still in September.
I'm going to try to make it out for that one.
Yeah, it's really not that far for me. So I'll probably go to that, at least one of the days.
Let's just quickly, since you, I, and Zach both wrote a bunch of stuff that we had memories of, I'm just going to list them here, kind of the best games. Break out all the Sierra games, the Wizardry series, Bard's Tale series, Lode Runner, which has that been a Game Club game?
I don't believe so. I haven't played that in forever.
Kakarita or Karateka, however you pronounce it. I loved that game back in the day. It's so bad on the 7800. Prince of Persia, Choplifter, Ultima 1, Arkanoid, Defender, Oregon Trail, Rocky's Boots, which I don't know. I think Zach must have put that in there. And then AppleWorks, Print Shop Pro, Dazzle Draw, and Copy 2 Plus, and Disc Muncher for, I guess, copiers.
Yes. Yeah, you had to have a copier because you had to have the two giant drives.
Yeah.
There were some programs where I think you could copy one to, with just one drive, but it was a lot of swapping involved.
Oh, yeah. I've been through that. Very annoying. Because we had one 3.5-inch drive and one 5.25-inch drive.
Okay, so we had two off-brand 5.25-inch drives.
Yeah. Shall we move on to Game Club?
Yeah, let's do that. We'll go to the danger zone here.
Yeah. So I picked Top Gun on NES because I saw the Top Gun 2 movie the other week and had a great time seeing it. And yeah, this is this game was on a lot of platforms, but I think the NES one was, we're only talking about that one, but this is from 1987, and it's from Konami, and it's a flying combat game, obviously. And, really not too much to say about it. I enjoy it, I think, more than most people do. I didn't know if I would this time through because I hadn't played it in a long time, and I did. I really did enjoy it. I think it's better than a lot of the other flight combat simulator games that were around at the time, like Falcon or Jet or Operation Wolf. It's pretty good, and the programmers that did this one also did like Jackal and Life Force and Goonies 2 and all the way to Metal Gear Solid 5. And it has 4 missions. The first one is really just a mission to teach you what you're doing, even though it's still pretty hard. Where you, at the beginning of each mission, you pick what kind of missile you're going to use. And then there's kind of a main bad guy for each one. Whether it's a battleship or not a battleship, a aircraft carrier, or the last bad guy, which is a space shuttle somehow. And you have to shoot missiles that are coming at you. You have stupid pilots that fly from behind you, right in front of you, that are very easy to shoot. And there's like enemy helicopters and stuff like that. And at the end of each level, you have to very carefully land back onto the aircraft carrier, which is hard for a lot of people, but I don't know why. I think I've only crashed a few times in my whole life. I guess I'm pretty good at that part, but it's funny. After you defeat the last guy, you still have to land on the aircraft carrier. And if you only have one guy left, you lost. Even though you saved the world or whatever. But, yeah, I mean, I like it. I say give it a play. I don't think loose, it's that much money. So, maybe pick it up if you're interested. But, yeah, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, not a really huge fan of it. I mean, I sort of viewed it like, I don't know, like a Afterburner knockoff. It's probably maybe not entirely fair, but that's kind of how I viewed it. This is one of like 10 NES games that I have boxed because there was like one year where I went to a few garage sales and kept finding Top Gun for NES. I must have bought 4 copies of it that year. The boxed one was really weird because it was like at a sale that had no other gaming items at all.
That is weird.
But it was a really popular game, so it's not surprising that it was in a lot of homes.
Well, this one came out in the same year as Afterburner, and I guess Afterburner would be the better Top Gun game because it still is an F-14 Tomcat. Both of them are. So, yeah, that's a fair point, but it's 8 bits against 16 bits.
Right, yeah. Well, yes, I understand, yeah. Landing sequence, I noted that I actually found the refueling to be harder. I have a much harder time with that. So instead, I watched the speed run, which is 25 minutes, which is only like a minute behind Metal Gear Solid, which I thought was insane.
Yeah.
And then I rewatched the Angry Video Game Nerd episode for this, which is 16 years old.
Wow.
That itself is retro. And that's still pretty hilarious, it turns out.
Nice. Cool. Let's move on to yours.
Yeah, so I picked Super Zaxxon, which I guess I didn't realize is more like a Zaxxon ROM hack than a new game. So I was pretty bad at it. I'm not good at Zaxxon either. I've always sort of liked the idea and like the aesthetics of Zaxxon better than actually playing it. Like I think it's the kind of thing you could still make an indie game that looked exactly like Super Zaxxon and people would love it. And after dying like instantly in it a few times, I decided to go look to see if it was on Starcade. And it's on 7 different episodes of Starcade.
Wow.
Yeah, I never really realized how regular that game appears on Starcade. And I watched one of the episodes. It was one of the weird ones again where it's like full-grown adult competing against like 10-year-old child. It's such a odd concept for a show. Both of them were as bad at it as I was. Like, can make it to the first tunnel and then die immediately.
Yeah.
I mean, I am really, really bad at this game. How about you? Did you survive past the first tunnel?
No, I did not. So first of all, before I answer that, how did you play this game?
I actually played it on archive.org.
Okay. That's the only way I could find to play too. And, cause I don't have MAME set up right now. And, wow. First of all, it took me a while to figure out the controls. Second of all, yeah, that second missile hit me like 10 times.
Right.
And I was like, I'm a better person than this. I at least have to get further than this. And so, yeah, I got into the first tunnel and, that was about it. I wasn't a big fan, but I could see how it wasn't a bad game. It's just, I wasn't going to put that much time into it. I think for these kind of games, I think my favorite is Viewpoint. But again, this is like 8-bit versus Neo Geo graphics, you know? Yeah, not too much to say on it just because I kept dying so quickly. But what are you going to play next?
I'm going to go with Tron, the arcade game Tron.
Nice. Well, I got a Tron cab sitting right next to me. So that's a good choice.
I've not played that game in a very long time. And watching that horrible arcade movie made me think about Tron. So,
how are you going to play Tron? Because it has a spinner and it has weird controls.
I don't know. I'm going to try I'm going to try it on archive.org, and if that doesn't work or is hard, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Maybe you'll have to go to an arcade.
Possibly. I mean, come to think, I probably have played it at a Midwest Gaming Classic or something like that recently. But it's been a while. It's been a pretty good while since I played it. And maybe I'll only be able to do a few of the games well. This was a game I remember from being in a pizza shop in one of these towns I lived in the 80s. That's the first time I ever saw one, and then at whatever arcade some number of weeks later. But first time I ever saw it was in a pizza shop.
Nice. Well, cool.
What are you going to play?
King's Quest 6. This is a last-minute choice. I forgot to pick a game this week, so I put this on just like an hour ago. So I know
You
it's
mentioned, I'm going to send you a picture from that I did not post on my site because of a receipt I have for King's Quest 6.
nice. Well,
So you can see what I paid for it back in, I believe it was 1996 I bought it.
there is a chance we have done this game before. This might be our first repeat.
Well, we've talked about the King's Quest games before. I thought we did 5, maybe.
Maybe. I
Because
forget.
5 is the only one that I played all the way through.
Okay. But we'll talk about it next episode. And so, yeah, if our listeners play Tron, King's Quest 6, Super Zaxxon, Top Gun on NES, if you have memories of Apple II, if you've hacked your PS3, I'd really like to hear about that. You're messing with SNES, MSU-1 files. Yeah, on and on and on. We had a lot of fun stuff this episode. Please write us. Email at retrogameclub.net. That is email at retrogameclub.net. And all of our other links are in our show notes that Zach maintains. So thank you, Zach. And we got a few emails this week.
Yeah, one of them from Zach, coincidentally, to talk about the Apple II memories, since he knew in advance that we were talking about Apple II.
Mm-hmm.
So he says his dad was a high school physics teacher who would bring home the Apple II during school breaks. And he knew a little bit about TI 99 BASIC and was able to figure out BASIC and eventually assembly language on the Apple II, which is pretty advanced.
That's impressive.
Yeah. So he really likes a lot of the quirks of the system, like the clicker speaker, the weird graphics memory layout, which is supposedly because it allowed WAS to save 2 4-bit adders in the design. Different graphics formats like low res, double res. This stuff always confused me back in the day. High res and double high res. He ended up their family purchased a Laser 128 Apple IIc clone. So I don't know that one. I have to look at that sometime. And after that, he got a mouse with Dazzle Draw, which, got him to, into creating bitmap graphics. The Laser 128 had a questionable design decision where you can hang expansion cards off a port on the side.
Oof.
I have to look. I have to see what this thing looks like. He got an early scanner, the Vertez Quickie handheld scanner. It could only scan black and white, but was still cool. And they eventually made an upgraded version that could do color, but you had to scan everything 3 times. So it must have scanned the color separately somehow.
Yeah.
Eventually, they started getting Apple II GS home on breaks, and he started to learn, but didn't get proficient with 65C 816 assembly. Yeah, but did play a lot with the super high graphics mode. And what else here? By the time he got to using computers in class, it was 5th grade, and he could program circles around the teacher, and he would get mad because he would take shortcuts on the programs, and it would still work.
Nice.
Yes. So there you go. I got to look at this Laser 128. I really never... I only Apple clone I know is the one I had.
Yeah, I'm looking this up too.
Yeah, hold on. I got to look at a picture of this thing. Oh, wow. It looks like an Amiga 500.
Yeah, kind of an Apple. Yeah, a mix of an Amiga and an Apple IIc.
It's sort of what it looks like, yeah. And I can see what the side with the expansion cards. Yeah. Wow. That looks pretty neat. Majors writes in about a couple things. D for 3DO. It reminded him of another failed platform that never gets re-releases, the PCFX. Now I have to caution you, just saying PCFX puts you on a watch list of some sort, I believe. It was a failed sequel, and it did get one re-release collection at the end of 2021. But it was really for very niche collectors, which I assume D for 3DO was the same group. You had asked if people keep their mini consoles hooked up or just as shelf decoration. Major says he keeps his PC mini in his travel luggage, which I would definitely recommend. I have brought an at-games system as a travel system before. Have you ever done that? Brought like some cheap mini system?
No, I have a buddy that does that a lot, but I just bring my Switch.
Yeah. I mean, that's unless you want to play on like the hotel TV.
Yeah.
That's which I might be prone to do. I don't know. I got to tell you, on a business trip, there's nothing better than not having to do anything in the evening, but drink and play games on the hotel TV.
Yes.
Something you don't realize how much you appreciate until you have kids.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we talked about Yuzo Koshiro last time. He also wants to recommend if you like chiptune music, Hitoshi Sakamoto, who did Midnight Resistance and many others, including the game Veritex, which I don't remember. I don't think we've ever talked about that, which is like one of these games that is known for the soundtrack. Finding Nuance in the Wild. So the only problem with that is the controller is super expensive, which I can tell you for the CDI is also true. Because CDI has some weird controller input, and it's really hard to get a cheap CDI controller. And then says he did try my demo. Okay, great. Well, I'm glad someone did. So thank you for that. And enjoyed the interview with Raftronaut, which I did too. So there you go.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll take this next one here from St. John from Des Moines. He is very, very excited and enthusiastic about this new Sega Genesis controller coming out. It is a 6-button controller that has the exact form factor of the 3-button controller. Mm-hmm. And it comes in 3 forms. It comes in a USB form, a 9-pin form, and a wireless form that can plug into both USB and the 9-pin port. And this is everything he's ever wanted. And yeah, I think I'm going to pick up that wireless one. I have a wireless one, but it just doesn't feel right. I think it's more of like the Saturn form factor, but yeah, this looks pretty cool.
I have a 6-button Retrobit Genesis controller already, so this is something different.
Yeah. This because this is very new.
Is it that this has switched? Like I have a wired one.
Mm-hmm.
They have a wired version that's the Genesis form factor, and they have a Bluetooth one. Is this? I'm just trying to figure out how this is different than the ones they've done before.
I think it's the different form factor. It's slightly different.
Okay.
So it feels more like the actual plastic feels more like the 3-button mold than the 6-button mold of kind of the Saturn one. So yeah, I am into this. And I also got that one for the Switch that I've never used.
Well, so I look at Retrobit today. They have 6-button. What is? Oh, I see what this is. Okay, I finally understand what's different. All right, are you ready?
Yes.
I see the difference now. So Retrobit sells the Sega Genesis 6-button arcade pad, which I have. Mm-hmm. And that's the form factor of the 6-button arcade pad that Sega released, as a response to the Super Nintendo having more buttons.
Yeah.
Right. This is the form factor of the 3-button Genesis controller, which is bigger, but has 6 buttons instead of 3.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. I really was not able to understand that.
Yeah. So, and yeah, that 3-button mold just feels better in your hands,
Yeah, because it's huge.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like the Xbox controller or something. But
nothing is as big as the original Saturn analog pad, which is actually not very comfortable to use.
But yeah, Zach Majors and St. John, thank you so much for those emails. We have some social media feedback, Apple II memories. Someone mostly remembers playing it in school or, messing with an Apple II in school for typing, but it was mostly Oregon Trail and Hangman. Oh yeah, there was a good Hangman game on Apple II. A few people think that I'm going to rage quit Top Gun, but no, I am good at the landings.
Wait, did you actually win? Have you won the game?
No, no.
Okay.
But it's almost because I get distracted with other things. You know what I mean? But no, I have not beaten it. And what else? Super Zaxxon, Raftronaut thinks the box art is crazy, and he heard the PICO version is a really good port.
Yeah, I wonder if that's on. I have the ColecoVision MIDI or whatever it's called. It's not called the MIDI. I probably should have checked if it was on there. I don't have that hooked up right now.
I didn't even know it was on Coleco.
Yeah, Coleco got a lot of ports.
Yeah, it was, definitely a port machine.
Yeah, so I have to look.
But yeah, so please email us, email@retrogameclub.net, and we will definitely butcher your emails.
Yes, 100%. Completely butcher them.
And I think that's about it until after the July 4th holiday, right?
Yeah. So enjoy the long weekend. I think everybody gets that one off, right?
Exactly, yeah. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening.